All right, so welcome everybody to the Wednesday Brown Bag Lunch feature here at Lawrence Heritage State Park for summer of 2020. My name is Rich. I'm the summer interpreter here. And this is the third installment now so far this season of the Wednesday Brown Bag Lunch program. Today we will be looking at oddities and curiosities in Lawrence, mostly focusing from the mid-1800s to the early 1900s, okay? Not that there aren't any oddities and curiosities after that, but we'll perhaps save those for another session. So today we'll cover mid-1800s to the early 1900s, okay? The way I normally do this, those of you who've been to my presentations before, you know this, we have a quiz, okay? So there's a multiple choice quiz. You can take a few minutes to do that. I have pens here if anybody needs a pen. And then we will go over the correct answers, and then that forms the basis for today's presentation, okay? Why don't we, if everybody's done then, why don't we go over this now, okay? All right. And by the way, two other quick things, I'm sorry. First of all, we kind of have to rough it here today, so I'm sorry about this arrangement, but normally we'd be on the third floor in the community room, but we have lifeguard training there this week, Monday, yesterday, and today. So that's why we're here in this alternative space with this alternative arrangement, so just pardon this. And then Tom reminded me his bicentennial collection will be on display during the month of July, and I think, the first half of August, maybe? Whenever Stephen Lewis comes in with his posters after. Okay, but definitely the month of July, Tom's bicentennial exhibit will be in the gallery, so be sure to check that out for in July there, if you're here for the 4th of July, or otherwise check it out. So, okay, number one. Confronted with a lack of commercial rental space, Amos Pillsbury established Lawrence's first new business, which was... All right, does anybody want to volunteer their answer with the group here?
Door-to-door sales medicine.
No, sorry, no.
B.
What's that?
B.
No. So it's sorry, it's A. It's A. Okay, well, we're only getting started, right? You all have 9 other chances now. So okay, all right. Okay, yes. So a Mr. Amos Pillsbury decided, basically a cobbler, decided to do shoe repairing here in the city. But because, for example, here on Essex Street, the downtown commercial rental space was limited and or out of his reach, he decided to get on a boat and do a shoe repair business on the banks of the Merrimack River. Okay, where exactly on the river, I don't know. I'm guessing probably the area that's Riverfront State Park now. I'm thinking likely that area there. I don't know for sure. I'm only guessing, but it was a shoe repairing business there on a boat that was docked on the banks of the Merrimack River. Okay.
Before the dam?
Yes,
Before they built it?
or concurrently maybe too. So. But yeah, no, that because of course we know the building of the dam did alter the river there. Yes. So either right before that or concurrently, it might have been with it as well. So number 2. So I bet this is a story that nobody has ever heard before, and maybe one that you did not want to hear, but but it's part of Lawrence's history, right? Okay, the oddities and curiosities, right? I promised you oddities and curiosities today, so okay. In April 1847, an unsubstantiated story circulated in Lawrence by an Irish prostitute, Maria Sullivan, that she had seen the body of a man known to her dumped into the Merrimack River. When the reported corpse reappeared in town several days later, and quite alive, a nativist mob formed around an Irish brothel on Water Street that was thought to be the house of Maria, and they destroyed the building. What was this incident known as? Okay, would anybody like to volunteer their answer with the group here?
I put A, but
No, I'm sorry,
my
no.
first choice was
Yeah,
B.
okay, no,
C?
a C. The C, right. The Black House Riot of 1847, okay. Part of Lawrence's history, maybe not, its best history, but part of Lawrence's history, okay.
History in that area.
Yeah. Some of that history is, doesn't matter. You got a river town, you're gonna have that history. Look at Newburyport.
Yeah, well,
We'll
that's
talk about
true.
brothels and-
Yeah, well, that's the thing, right, where you have access to transportation there, right? I guess, that creates opportunities, good and bad.
Portsmouth.
Right,
full
Portsmouth,
load of brothels.
another location there, right, with water access, yeah, so.
And people on ships for months at a time.
True, right, and one thing leads to another, right,
So,
so.
a bunch of guys on a ship, then they wanna go for a couple drinks.
Yeah,
and,
and then, right, one thing leads to
Well,
another, yes.
that's it.
Yep, so A and B there, I made up those names there, but sort of, they're plausible, but the actual incident there, the incident is known by the actual title of the Black House Riot of 1847, okay, so. Okay, number 3. On September 7th, 1846, a post office was opened in a small building on the Turnpike, what we would know today as Route 28 or Broadway, near the one that was later to be built at Essex and Broadway, where McDonald's restaurant is now located. Since what was to become the town and then the city of Lawrence was not yet named, and the post office had to have some name. So what name did it start off with? Start off using? Any?
I would say the Essex Company.
No, I'm
No.
sorry. No.
Merrimack.
Merrimack. Merrimack, not Milltown. Yep, but I heard a couple people say Merrimack. So Merrimack, yes, Merrimack. Okay. Which makes sense, right? It was named after the nearby river. And the river that cuts right through the city, right? Okay.
Well, was there no
Yes, go ahead,
town,
Jörg.
there was no town of Merrimack yet?
No, the town of Merrimack, actually, I believe, did not come about until 1876. Okay, it was one of the last, if not the last town to be developed in the Merrimack Valley. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they took land from Havel and
Yeah.
Amesbury.
Yep. So, now, so by the way, when Lawrence was being developed and it wasn't named yet, okay, people out there walking around were calling it different names, okay? So, Merrimack was one of those names that people were referring to this area as, okay? Hence the name that the post office chose as its first name, okay? People out there were also calling this New City, okay, for lack of a more original name, all right? And it was also called Andover Bridge by some people out there at the time, okay? Because the first bridge, right, that was built here was wooden. It caught fire after and burned down near where today's Falls Bridge would be, or the Central Bridge, okay? And so because it led into Andover, from here, and of course south of the Merrimack was originally Andover, it was called Andover Bridge, all right? The bridge was called Andover Bridge, and what was to become Lawrence was at times called Andover Bridge, okay? So,
It was a toll bridge.
yes, a toll bridge, right, okay? So.
And General Lafayette rode over that.
Yes, on his celebrated American tour in, what was it, 1824, 1825? So, yes, okay.
And the Native Americans, what did they call this area?
Okay, they called the area Merauke, all right? See, all right, they were living, contrary to popular belief, okay, the Native Americans were not living on the banks of the Merrimack River. Why? Well, because of the currents, the strong currents, okay, and because it flooded easily, all right? So the Native Americans needed to be on higher, safer ground, okay? So, and if you take my boat tour this summer, I get into this. So rather, they lived along the banks of the tributaries, okay, where the land was safer there and not as prone to flooding, all right? So like the Shawsheen, the Spigot, the Concord, the Assabet, the Suhegan, okay, that's where the Native American villages were, okay? So the area here, which was dominated, and you could say still is, by the Merrimack River, okay, the Native Americans called it Merrauke, Merroh, and then Awke, Merrauke, all right, which translated roughly means place of strong current, okay? Again, because of the Merrimack River, right, which was dominating the landscape here, okay? So that's what the Native Americans called it, Merrauke, which, over time got morphed into the word Merrimack that we know today, like Merrimack, Massachusetts, Merrimack College, Merrimack Street, right? Okay, so.
And Merrimack, Mass is not spelled the same way as it's
right.
spelled in IC.
Right,
We don't know that.
yes, right, as probably everybody knows, Merrimack, New Hampshire has the K, Merrimack, Mass does not have the K.
Well, even the spigot,
Yeah,
lots of the spigot,
Yeah.
the state finally fixed the sign by on 2/3 of the spigot.
Oh, okay.
It was spelled SPIQUOT.
Oh.
Spigot.
oh, yeah,
Most of the maps spelled SPICKET.
yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
When was the last time there was a Native American exhibit here?
An exhibit, I do not know, not during the time I've been here, which has been 18 summers now. So, but that would be a good idea for an exhibit, though.
There was one in April.
We have one up all the time in
Yeah.
April, yeah. Part of the Essex National Heritage, Trails Committee,
Yeah.
we were on the early settlement, we're on all three should have been on all three, but they didn't get the shipbuilding in time. But there is a Native American permanent exhibit set up.
Permanent. Okay.
But you need to get those artifacts, and I don't think the park could get their hands on artifacts like that.
Yeah,
That's very hard to do. We were
Yeah.
lucky enough in Havel, because I've worked at the Buttonwoods for 26 years, anybody who doesn't know who I am. We had the Frederick Allington Luce collection. He was an amateur archaeologist that we ended up with everything from the Archaeology Society. So we were able to put one together. We were very lucky. But most museums don't have enough stuff to put there. I know Methuen has a small collection that would fit half this table. You could do the research and build something decent,
yeah.
but you're not gonna have a full-blown,
Like
and no museum's gonna interloan
I suspect
anything.
the History Center has.
Probably the
had
Lawrence History Center,
has.
Yeah, they
I
probably
mean, I
have
was
some.
just trying to.
Yeah, no,
get
good
an
idea,
interest,
though. Yeah.
But, because I see sometimes, and I'm really not a specialist in this, that it would be really, given the current population of Lawrence, quite interesting.
Oh, no, no doubt, indeed.
I agree with you, just getting the collection.
Maybe do they teach it at all in schools? Or?
In Northern Essex, we don't, no. If there's any Native American history taught, it would be as part of US History 1. When I teach that, I cover some Native American history, but we don't have like a whole separate course on it.
4th grade and 8th grade.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think junior or senior year, I forgot which. They change it, and it's different with every city and town, so don't even take what I just said as gospel on that one, because I know it changes every community. does.
Yeah, right, sometimes they change the curriculum there, yeah. Okay, well, anyway, continuing, but thank you. Number 4, the construction of the Great Stone Dam took exactly 3 years to the day to build, okay? From the laying of the cornerstone to the laying of its final crest stone. Now, what were the start-finish dates for the building of the Great Stone Dam? Anybody want to share their answer with us?
August, September.
Yes, Andrea, you're on the board.
Because I
Okay.
had just looked this up, I was researching how water, sewer, et cetera, came to be in Lawrence.
Oh,
And I
huh,
remembered it
okay.
was the same thing as Bread and Roses Month.
There we go, there's a good way to remember it, right? It's the same month as the Bread and Roses
Oh, really?
Festival, right? Okay, so, yes, and I'll add, just so you know.
It's Richard's birthday.
It's my birthday, yes, September 19th is my birthday, all right? So see, that's why Jim originally hired me here, because it's, oh, Rich, all right, you were born September 19th, you're hired, because that's the anniversary, right? That's the date of the anniversary of the dam, right?
It was also my grandfather's birthday, too.
Yeah, huh.
He was born on.
Yeah.
A lot older than you.
But a lot before I was born, yeah, okay. So the laying of the cornerstone was September 19th, 1845, and then the laying of the final crest stone was September 19th of 1848, okay? Now, let me just add to that if you want to know the date of the actual beginning of the construction, okay, when the shovels first went into the ground, just so you know, that was August 1st of 1845.
That's my birthday.
Oh, okay, all right.
Is that your day?
Okay, all right, so, now, I don't know if they planned it on purpose this way with the exact dates or not, or just that's the way it ended up coming out, ended up happening.
I bet at the end
I
they
don't
went,
know.
hey, we can do something historical here, we'll
Yeah,
just stretch it another week.
It's quite possible, right, that they delayed maybe the laying of that final crest stone until September 19th, knowing that 3 years earlier, that's when they laid the cornerstone, So it could be they stretched it out or dragged it out a little just to get that September 19th end date there, it's possible. Yeah.
Maybe we should check Abbott Lawrence's birthday.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe Abbott Lawrence, we need to investigate his birthday. Yes, there could have been a little play there, right, with Abbott Lawrence, going on. Yeah, you never know. Tom's got to check for us. Okay, number 5.
How did you guess, Rich?
Now, I don't know, when you whipped out your cell phone there, Tom. All right, number 5. Okay, but I'll continue while you're
Yeah,
doing
you
that.
continue
Okay.
that.
All right, number 5.
You don't know who you're gonna get when you Google things.
No. While Lawrence was practically transformed overnight from rural to urban, at the same time large sections of it remained rural and bucolic. On the edge of wilderness, Lawrence regularly held agricultural fairs that exhibited livestock and farm implements. On what busy street today were the fairgrounds located? Any guesses?
I would have said Havel Street, but it's not a common.
No. Good guess though, Andrea.
Havel Street?
No, it's not Havel Street. No.
Broadway?
No.
Well,
Sorry. Union Street, right? Okay, Union. Yes. Okay.
Now, Abbott Lawrence was born December 16, 1792,
Okay.
and he
So,
died August 18th, 1855.
my wedding anniversary, August 18th. Wow, look at that. Okay. Woo. yeah.
And he's buried in Groton, and I've seen his gravestone. It's a great place to go. It's not actually, sorry, not Groton, he's buried in the Lowell cemeteries.
Lowell.
Same places where Rich Bonnie's buried. They got these cathedral-looking gravestones. You cannot miss these gravestones. You gotta, if you can get out there, just to tour the gravestones, the Abbott Lawrence gravestone is huge. You go,
You have to crank your neck, kind of look up at it.
they,
then, yeah.
and one of the Lawrence brothers has got a lion. The lion's as big as this, bigger than this table.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, there's some.
It's true what they
Yeah.
say, what money can buy, right? So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe the lion is sleeping.
Yes,
One of the
The
Ayers.
lion sleeps tonight.
the air's got a big one there too.
Yes.
The air's a huge down there. Yeah, they got a
speaking
big
of money,
one too.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So, I don't know the exact location, I couldn't pinpoint it in my research on Union Street, but somewhere on Union Street were the agricultural fairgrounds, okay? And, I know, hard to imagine today, right? Okay, fast forward to today, it's like, oh my God, Union Street, quite busy, like a
Well,
rush hour.
South Union and
right?
Union were one street at one time
Yeah.
before they went. So it could be
Okay,
at the.
South Union, the South Union end of it, maybe?
It could have been.
Yeah,
You know where that agriculture fair could have been? It's a park right near my cousin. He had a business over there.
Mahoney's?
No, in the cross. Yeah, well, it's not my cousin. The Jackson's Lumber. But yeah, them old Mahoney's. There's a there's a.
okay, that's
Is that
possible.
the O'Connell Park?
The O'Connell Park, yeah, that could be.
That's right, because it goes that way too.
Yeah.
That's quite
Okay.
possible then.
That's a
that
big
would-
enough piece of, I
yeah.
mean, they've butchered it into baseball fields, basketball courts and everything else now,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's a pretty big, because I remember before the basketball courts, my father's band used to play on there every Saturday night at the grandstand.
Yeah, the grandstand, the bandstand there.
The bandstand.
Yeah,
He
okay.
played there, he had a jazz band, he played there every Saturday night.
Okay,
And I remember that place being mobbed with people.
okay. All right, so
That's a
that could be,
possibility.
yeah, that's a possibility. Okay, thank you, Tom. Number 6. In 1847, the first 2 hotels in Lawrence, the Colburn House and the Merrimack House, opened with lodgers, consisting mostly of construction workers, as you might imagine, working on the dam. those who could afford to lodge at a hotel, that is. On what busy street today were these hotels located? Any guesses?
Essex Street.
No.
No, there's
I'm
two on
sorry.
Broadway, it's Broadway, right?
Broadway, it's Broadway.
There's one of them still standing, it's a
Broadway.
boarding house now,
Okay.
near Havel Street.
Yeah, Haverhill Street, okay.
Yeah.
Like diagonally across where Rashico used to be,
Yeah.
right, the funeral home there, I think.
Yeah, there's a boarding house
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah,
It
okay.
looks like an old hotel.
Yes, now I know what you mean.
Yeah,
Yes.
that one's still standing. I don't think the name's on the building every time.
No, I doubt it.
I try to drive
no.
by there and look, but that street's so busy, if you don't pay attention, you're gonna run somebody over.
Yeah,
And we don't wanna do that
but,
either.
no. But you know, Lawrence, although not a tourist destination, you know, still had hotels, the Coburn and the Merrimack, among others.
And
They
you
would-
forgot about the big one that's still standing today.
okay.
It's a tourist location called the Essex Street Inn
Okay.
Yeah.
on Essex Street.
Oh, the
It's called
Essex Street Inn,
Inn.
by Amesbury Street there,
Yeah.
I think, yeah,
The
okay.
brick building.
Calling me in where all the
I'm only
convicts are on the
thinking
top
about being
floor.
a tourist location, it's not.
Bracelet people.
It says Essex
Oh,
Street Inn right
okay, I
on
see,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Which
okay.
was the boarding house.
It's now a boarding house, but it's called Essex Street Inn.
But was
Yeah.
it one of the
Oh,
original
The boarding
boarding
house
houses?
was right up the block from it there at Canal and Amesbury.
Right,
This is
on the other side.
on the other side,
Thank
yes, okay, yes, right. And then I think the building is still there, I'm not sure, but there was the President Hotel near Essex and Broadway. Right, it was like 5 or 6 stories high. I'm not sure if they knocked it down or if it's still there. If it's still there, obviously it's some other purpose now, you know. But there was the President Hotel up on Essex Street by the intersection with Broadway, I remember. Growing
I
up
think
there.
that one's been torn down.
Yeah, probably torn down. I think it's a parking lot now, maybe, or some other building there, you know.
Essex
But,
and Broadway, what's there
Yeah,
now?
yeah.
There's that elderly housing
Elderly
complex.
housing.
Yeah,
That's where it probably was, across from that?
From the elderly housing there at Essex and Broadway, yeah, on the other side of Essex Street.
Oh, that's,
Yeah.
that building,
Hardware store. The bank and the hardware store.
yeah, my,
Hardware store, bank.
Yeah, there's a clothing store
Yeah.
there now. They always have the mannequins out on the sidewalk. with-
that's a
with-
newer
with
building.
clothes on
I
them
bet they tore
displayed.
the old building
Yeah,
down to
that's-
that one.
Isn't that the currency?
Yeah.
That was actually a bank, not that old,
Okay.
actually.
Okay.
Bay State,
Bay State National,
I
maybe?
think so, it was in
Yeah.
that corner.
Okay,
Okay.
so they tore
Yeah.
that down, built the bank, and now
Okay.
currency's in
There
there.
there
Okay.
actually's been quite a bit of throwing down and replacement going on right now, it's amazing how
Yeah,
hundreds of apartments being built
Yeah.
on Essex Street.
yes, a lot of them in the old mills here, you know, like Lowell and Haverhill and
Some of them are
Son.
actually new.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And big investor in Lawrence is a Reading Bank.
Yeah, right, you see their banner everywhere where these new projects are going up. Yeah, that's right. Good observation, yes.
Oh yeah, that's my game.
And they're building one, they're building a brand new unit. In fact, it's funny, they got a parking garage in this thing. So if you're sitting in the parking lot, you don't realize there's a parking garage there, you're driving down Methuen Street, you'll see cars driving in a building.
Oh, the immigration building.
No, on Methuen Street, the
Yeah,
back
yeah,
end.
yeah, the immigration building on Methuen Street. They have an underground parking
Yeah,
garage.
not there.
But you're talking
On
about
Methuen Street
another.
behind the studio, there's a big mill building.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, I forgot the name of the mill. Right after White, go down by White Street Paint, you come to the first intersection, there's a mill right there.
yeah, okay.
They have the whole length of that road.
Yeah, Umphie's
Yeah,
used to be
yeah.
there, I think,
You
yeah.
got Humphreys Women.
Yeah, okay.
They
yeah.
turned that into housing. One
Ah,
day,
Okay.
oh, she ran away. Christina goes, I see car driving in mill. You saw that, remember you said that?
Yeah.
There's
I
cars.
just started
Yeah.
there and I was like, why is there a car in this building? With
Yeah.
headlights at the middle of the night, what is going on?
Parking,
Parking
yeah,
lot.
parking
So they
garage,
built-
yeah.
They got the housing in there, but they also built the parking deck inside the mill building.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean, okay, now, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's quite interesting what they're doing with some of these mill
Yeah,
buildings.
yeah, sure, good. Number 7, altogether in Lawrence, immigrants came from how many countries, speaking how many languages? Those of you who've been on my tours should know this already. No pressure.
Andrea, what do you think?
Any guesses?
Well, they're all so close together. you
Yes, I did that on purpose, see? I had to make it challenging, right, you know? Right? Right, Jürgen's an educator too, right? You can understand this, right? But yeah, any guesses?
51.
Very good. Speaking of the educated, there you go. The professor gets it right. 51 countries, right? Speaking 45 languages. Yes.
See?
Yes. Okay. So, yeah. 51. Yes. It was quite cosmopolitan here.
I know.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So you can imagine when all these people now, the immigrants had to work together in the mills. That got quite dicey, right? Okay. Okay. The communication problem there, right, between and among some of them. And then also, there were tensions and rivalries, as you probably know, right, among the different ethnic groups in the mills. They came here with their own customs and traditions and practices, and sometimes they were not always well received with the other groups that were here, okay. But you probably know for the well, you might imagine, for the Bread and Roses strike, okay, unity was very important, right? So they had to put aside their differences to come together to have a successful outcome to the Bread and Roses strike, which they did, okay? And when those, the IWW people came to Lawrence, and they were multilinguistic, so when they would address the strikers on the common, they would be speaking in different languages in order to try to reach as many of the different ethnic groups as possible. Okay, so yeah, all right. But needless to say, it was like the United Nations in these mills, right? You could say, So okay, number 8. From the mid-1800s to the early 1900s, which is the time period that all these questions deal with here today on the quiz. The grim reality in Lawrence was that what percentage of men and women in the textile mills died before they turned 25? Any guesses?
I would go with the highest, 45. I was probably
No,
wrong.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry. No.
Yeah, I know it.
All right, there's 2 other choices now.
C, 36?
No, sorry, 36, 36, yeah. 36. So a solid third, almost 4 out of 10, right, approaching 4 out of 10, mill workers, okay, died before they reached age 25. All right, that was the grim reality here in Lawrence,
Where do you have to go now to get death certificates or, for
City
safety?
Hall.
Still there?
Yeah,
still
I
there.
would go to City Hall, yeah.
Because I'd be curious to find out what they.
Oh, okay, and of course, a trip to the Lawrence History Center might be productive as well, as far as that goes, They have all the old records there, but City Hall, of course, has the actual, the record of everything,
Right.
births and deaths,
Yes, I
So-
suspect.
Some online, too.
yeah. Oh, and online probably nowadays, too.
Family search is free.
Yeah.
Ancestry.
Okay, yep,
The
okay.
problem with family search and ancestry, it's a good starting point. And cut some time off, we should double check, because especially with the colonial stuff, when I'm helping old families where I work, locate their families, if you find something on your family back in the day and you think it's fact, you can go in those family search records and just change it. Come to find out, it may or may not be fact. It may be a family story that sounded good. You might have trusted everything to be factual, but that old story, you start a story, it gets changed.
Yeah, along the way.
Not on
Yeah.
purpose, but just because how our memory works.
Yeah, yeah.
You can change anything in those families.
But I'm
It's
just
like
talking
Wikipedia.
about the actual documents.
Yeah. If you can find if they post them.
Yeah.
Some families don't post the actual
You
document.
should tell a quick story about your work in Switzerland with Americans coming,
That sounds interesting.
With what?
with the Americans coming from, America, Swiss coming from America looking
Oh,
at
yes,
flowers.
so-
It's
and
very interesting.
The state of Glarus in Switzerland has very good genealogical records. So immigrants who moved to the Midwest, mainly to Wisconsin, organized summer trips to Glarus to check on their relatives. in the huge folio books that they have there. And there are many very happy experiences and many sad ones because they found that some of their ancestors were executed for
Something or other.
Yeah, the bad
So-
side of things, yeah.
But it's a very popular thing.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if your family goes back in New England to the quote richest area, they might have been hung at a certain date, but their death date isn't registered until they were purified by the Puritans.
Really.
That's interesting.
So you really got to go the books and really do deep.
A thorough, deep
Thorough.
search.
It's great to start there because you get your outline already. You can print that out and start with a great outline. You know, and then you
Then-
double check everything and then redo it.
Yeah.
But at least you got an outline.
Yeah,
Someone
yes,
started an
yes.
outline.
Right.
But
Good.
it's not always, most of it's factual. I'm not saying everything's wrong about it, but I have, caught.
It's funny if I go.
especially in certain time periods of American history, the older stuff has been.
Okay.
Sorry, Rich.
Okay, no, it's okay. No, yeah, I appreciate your adding to the discussion here, Tom. That's okay. And before we get to number 9, so as far as, the unhealthy work life in the mills, now again, if you've taken my museum tours here, especially, you know this, but women would get scalped, right, okay, with the machines, okay. People will get fingers amputated, in the machinery there, okay. There was hearing loss, issues with hearing loss, right, because of those loud hundreds, thousands of machines constantly going and vibrating and banging, breathing problems also, okay, because they were constantly, they were particles, fabric particles, floating through the air in these mills, okay, and people breathing this in 12 hours a day, 5 or 6 days a week, okay, so you get the idea, right? Life in the mills, health-wise, was not conducive to longevity. Okay, but back then, even all right, so let's say you weren't working in the mills, let's say you had a construction job. Well, there were a couple of deaths when they were building the dam, for example, right? You know what I mean? So even construction jobs, helping to literally build the city here, were dangerous as well.
They were building these buildings, right?
Yeah, building these buildings, right, especially without the modern equipment and machinery that we have today,
And the safety standards we have today.
Not to
Right.
mention the children.
And the children, right,
Still need
working in the
safety
mills,
standards.
safety standards, right,
We still
so.
need stronger
all right.
safety.
Correct, but they
So,
were a
you
lot
know.
stronger today than they were 120 years ago.
And then let's say you were a shopkeeper here downtown. All right, well, you still weren't out of the woods, really, you know what I mean? You could get robbed, let's say, for example, right? Okay, if you were a shopkeeper, okay? Maybe your business may fail, you know what I mean, right? You know what I mean? So let's say you didn't work in the mills, you weren't a construction worker, but you ran a shop here downtown, you still faced issues as well, you know what I mean? So.
Especially back then, because people would, okay, I'll be back on Saturday, and you're trying to trust them.
Right, like, okay, I'll pay you, next time I see you, right, and, oh, yeah, right, good luck with that, right, yeah.
Some people
So-
paid, but some didn't.
But some didn't, right. Okay, number 9. Now this one I thought was a very interesting question, among others. Which founding father of Lawrence almost became vice president of the United States, and if he had, would have also become the 13th president?
Abbott.
Abbott Lawrence, yes,
My favorite.
right, very good, okay. Yes, Abbott Lawrence,
So
okay.
he was up against Bill Horn.
Yes, very good, Maureen. So, at the 1848 Whig National Convention in Philadelphia, okay, back then the delegates at the convention would choose the vice presidential running mate, okay? Nowadays, there's a committee, right, the nominee, the Republican and the Democratic nominee, each form like a committee, okay, put somebody in charge to select their vice presidential running mate, okay? Back then, in the 1800s, even into the early 1900s, the delegates at the National Nominating Convention would select the vice presidential running mate, okay? So that time, Abbott Lawrence was in contention with Millard Fillmore, okay, who was a former congressman, and at the time, he was the comptroller of the state of New York, okay? So the delegates, for whatever reason, passed on Abbott Lawrence on the first ballot. On the second ballot, they nominated Millard Fillmore to run with Zachary Taylor, old Rough and Ready, right, the Mexican-American war hero, okay? So they paired up Millard Fillmore with Zachary Taylor to form the Whig ticket, which was successful after in November, okay? Now, Abbott Lawrence at the time was a former congressman, okay, and of course an industrialist, okay, lots of money, well-known, ambitious, okay, so he was in contention there, okay. Now, if he had been selected, okay, some of you probably know that Zachary Taylor died in office, right, okay, July 9th, 1850, he went to the building, okay, the starting of the construction of the Washington Monument, okay. I think it was under construction, and they had a 4th of July, well, not 4th of July, I shouldn't say that, this was July 9th, but they had like some kind of ceremony at the Washington Monument, okay, which was under construction or nearing completion at the time, okay. So President Taylor went to the ceremony there. It was a hot day, big surprise in the Mid-Atlantic region in July, right, okay? So he went to the dedication there, and the heat, it was an excessively hot day that day, okay? So he gets back to the White House, and he starts gulping down milk, you know, to try to cool off, unpasteurized milk, okay? And then also eating like a big bowl of cherries as well, all right, okay, all right? Now he already had some health ailments to begin with, okay? So we're not sure exactly what happened, okay, but probably he got some kind of an infection, okay, from gulping down all that unpasteurized milk and then loading himself up with like a bowl of cherries to try to cool off, okay, after suffering through the heat at that ceremony at the Washington Monument that day, okay. So he goes to bed feeling sick that night, big surprise, okay, and then the next day, July 10th, 1850, he dies. All right, so Millard Fillmore, now the vice president, becomes president, okay? But had the delegates gone with Abbott Lawrence instead of Millard Fillmore, Abbott Lawrence, our own Abbott Lawrence here, right, okay, would have become the 13th president of the United States. How's that for fate, you know?
Amazing.
Yes, yeah. So, all right, and number 10, and we're at 1 o'clock now, so which immigrant ethnic group did not arrive in Lawrence until 1891, late, okay, by the standards of most of the other groups that had come here already, when they took the place of striking railway workers? Any guesses?
Italian.
Yes, very good, Maureen. Yeah, chalk one up for Tom and I, the Italians, right? Okay. And if anybody else has Italian blood here as well, chalk one up for us. Okay. So the Italians, yes. Okay. And does anybody know? Well, actually, I pretty much told you in the question here. Okay. So they came, all right, to take the place of striking railway workers. Okay. The streetcar workers had gone out on strike. All right. And so word got out. And the Italians must have figured, well, all right, you know, here's our opportunity to swoop in now, all right, and sure, we'll take their place, right? We got a job, right? We're taking their place, so we're working, we'll get paid for doing this, right? Okay. Unfortunately, that did not endear them to most of the population here, right? Okay, because you know, scabs and all that, right? Okay, so. And you know, I'll tell you in general, okay. The native population here favored the northern and western Europeans that were coming here, the immigrants, and the southern European, you know, Mediterranean region immigrants did not have a good image here in the eyes of the native population. Okay.
No, but you know, if it wasn't for these Mediterranean people, let's see. Let me think. Wait a minute. Lawrence wouldn't have any electrical power. There'd be no entertainment in southern New Hampshire. And the Havel wouldn't have had a lot of electrical power either. Anybody know why? It was the Italian immigrants that built the Rockingham racetrack, the Arlington Dam, and the Millville Dam in Havel. They helped power some of the mills in Havel.
Okay.
It was the Italian immigrants who also rebuilt downtown Havel after the Great Fire too.
Okay, in 1882?
Two, yeah, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They rebuilt all those brick, there was the Italian masons that rebuilt all of them.
Yes, they were very good. They were known especially for their masonry work.
And who's driven down Pond Street in Salem, New Hampshire, anybody? How about around Pleasant Valley Street, anybody?
Yeah.
And you know those big walls, the little stone walls and the tenny walls and the Searles walls?
Yes.
Those were all built by Italian immigrants too.
Oh, okay, all right.
And Pond Street, that big wall, that's all was Searles' property.
Okay, yep. And, you know, so it's,
What? Presentation here was Searles too.
Yeah.
And Castle Junior College and that whole area in
yeah,
Wyndham.
Wyndham, yeah.
That was all built
yeah.
by Italian immigrants.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Tom, yes. And of course, the Italians ended up being one of the largest immigrant ethnic groups here at their peak, you know. Of course, dominated by the Irish for a long time, but the French Canadians had a large population here, the Italians as well, other groups, you know, Germans fairly large, so the Italians were kind of Johnny-come-latelys, you know, but once they did come, their numbers really expanded. You know.
And they basically, you can't think of the 1912 strike without the Italians.
That's
because
right.
They actually led it and organized it.
Yes, that's right. The Italians, thank you, Linda. The Italians were among the prime movers, or organizers, I should say, organizers of the Bread and Roses strike. Okay, why? Well, it impacted them a lot, right? Perhaps the most. Okay, so they had a vested interest in it, but they were big organizers. The Italians were the big organizers of the Bread and Roses strike.
One of the attorney that was,
Right.
he lived to almost 100 during the Italian-American,
Rocco.
Angelo Rocco.
Oh, Angelo Rocco. Okay, I've heard the name. Yes.
Very
Okay.
figure.
Yeah.
in the Italian community. Maybe not acknowledged today,
No, I don't think so. No.
which is unfortunate because
yeah.
if you just recently saw a new version of the Wobbly film, and who do they pick to represent Lawrence? Angelo Rocco.
Oh. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Yeah. So I'll let you go if you have to go. But Eddie, thanks for coming. Any final questions or comments or thoughts? Personal stories? Anybody wants to share with us on your early history of your ancestors?